Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Windshield Time, the podcast where we help you use your windshield time to turn learning into earning. And Windshield Time is, of course, brought to you by Service Excellence. Today, by the way, I'm Chris Elmore, the host. And I'm joined once again by Harold James Walker Jr., whom we affectionately call J-Dub. Today, we're going to be talking about presenting your findings. First, greatest professional athlete in the last 20 years.
Ooh, you had me until the last 20 years. Jim Thorpe before Bo Jackson, and then Bo Jackson would be my all-time answer. Now, in the last...
You came to those really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim Thorpe, yes, I get it.
Okay.
He had a lot of things to overcome, and he won, I don't know,
Who
thousands.
cares about overcoming? I mean, I care about that, but just empirically, he was one of the best all-around natural athletes of all time, regardless of what he had to overcome. That just adds flavor to the coffee.
So here's what's going to happen.
Yes.
Alex is going to apply for workers' comp because his finger over the crickets button is getting sore.
He's getting tendonitis.
Yes.
Little,
It's like Homer Simpson pushing the button
that's right.
at the nuclear power plant.
Right.
Okay.
But Bo Jackson.
Okay, let's talk Bo Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there was running up the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Throwing from left field. I mean, just go watch some throws that he makes from outfield.
Okay, he carried Brian Bosworth into the end zone.
Yeah, sure.
And dumped him.
He had, if you go back and watch his footage, he had laser timed 4.13 40s. He said it was clocked at 3.9 on clocks, but still fastest 40 of all time, counting it in the what's it called, the NFL Combine. Just the unbelievable athlete. Could do anything.
Okay.
Bo knows.
Last 20 years.
Jeez. I mean, you hate to say it because it's like, I mean, you got like the Michael Phelps type thing of like this guy has just won every single thing he touches.
Okay.
Or
Professional.
Usain Bolt, maybe. I don't know about all-around athlete, just freak of nature type deal.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't have an opinion.
Really?
Because I think there's a lot of different
There's
ways
so many
to
different
slice and dice it.
expressions
I think
of that nowadays.
making a living,
Okay. I got it.
not off endorsements, but actually getting paid to play the sport.
Got it.
Tell me.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Why do you think that?
One of the fastest guys, even for a track guy. One of the highest jumps, even for a basketball guy. One of the most fit with regards to being able to keep pace throughout a match. As a physical specimen, remarkable. Have you ever seen like those places of where they show you how high he gets on those headers?
Oh, yeah.
And they have like a ball set up in the air and they have people try to run up and jump it. I mean, he gets, there's some stupid YouTube videos, we can't watch them right now, of where they go and they show how high he physically got to head that ball into the net. And it's just crazy. It's unbelievable.
Okay. Food for thought.
All right.
Food for thought.
Talk to me.
No, you talked to me, and I'm saying you gave me food.
Oh, I gave you food. I thought you were about to clarify.
No, you're serving. I'm eating.
Yeah. Not all that well. Let's just be honest.
Okay, but I'm going to let you say that, not me.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about presenting our findings, because I think we do a lot of talking about presenting options.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of talk about handling objections for that. But I think presenting your findings, let me hit you with this.
Sure.
Presenting your findings really starts with the questions you're asking when you first get there.
An evaluation, for sure.
Yeah.
Why don't you had a really good word picture of that with the, bomb and all that stuff. You want to share that?
Okay. Well, we got to get to that.
Okay.
So ask me why I say it starts with the evaluation with questions.
Now you're telling me to do something and I don't want to do it. So, Chris, expound.
Alex, do we get crickets on that?
Okay.
What does that mean?
That means
Okay,
continue.
let me ask you.
Chris,
So
why do you say
expound.
that? Why does that?
Expound. Why wouldn't you just say expand? Why is it expound? It's like you put two words together. I know it's a real word, but it's like why is that word? Can't you just say expand?
Because expand is the wrong word for the context.
So
Expound on that means to unpack verbally the concept for me.
well, X means it's getting
Out,
bigger,
out.
outer. It's growing outer,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Pound is what I'm going to do to you.
You're ridiculous.
It's true.
So
So
okay,
why do you say that that's the case? Why do you
because
say that presenting findings happens in the questions?
I think we always talk about tie back to their answers. We
Yes.
always talk about that when you're presenting. But I think that your customer comes into it with certain expectations.
Yes.
Nowadays, they just look online.
Right.
If they want to know something, that's what I do. It's what
Sure.
you do. I mean, we were talking about songs earlier, and you were telling me about a drummer. And what's first? Have you heard of this drummer? No, I haven't. And then you found it on your phone. I mean, you
Sure.
looked it up. Well, customers are no different when it comes to this. Having service work done
Sure.
or replacing something.
Preparing
than
for the
that.
scenario.
They're going to research and things like that. And unfortunately, while generally the narrative they find is okay,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be specific to the situation they face in their home with the service person that is there.
Right.
Okay, and so we have to work to narrow their expectations or channel their expectations, reset their expectations. We need to do that because one of our previous podcasts we talked about when you get there and a customer already knows they think they know what's wrong.
Right.
That was in the Minefields podcast. They think they know what's wrong, or they're sure it's this, or hey, can't we just do this? And so at some point we have to reset that. And
Yeah.
the only way we can do that is by setting context first.
Sure.
And so as part of the evaluate with questions, we can script it if you want, but I'm not even talking about scripting. I think there's a natural order to how there's a natural order to the questions because they build on one another.
Sure.
And specifically, the areas of questioning would be the first question I would ask when I got to the affected area, the affected device, the thermostat, depending on your trade. The first thing I would ask that's to the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and just so we're clear, when we do an introduction and I say, "Hi, I'm Chris Elmore. Are you James Walker?" That's a question.
Sure.
Okay, but that question has one answer.
Right.
Right? It has a specific answer, yes
Right.
or no. I understand I'm here to do your maintenance today. Is that correct? That's either yes or no, et cetera. We go down the line. There's no open-ended to that. And I pretty much know what the answers to those questions are going to be. I'm giving you the opportunity to say those things, and we're building that rapport. Another question I would ask, that's a great whatever. How did you get that? Or, wow, that's awesome. Is that question? And we're
Relationship building.
Yeah, we're breaking the ice.
Yeah.
Man, you got a great house. How long have you guys lived here? That's going to be a question I'm going to get answered in
Sure.
the first little bit. And we moved in about 5 years ago. Oh, how do you guys like the neighborhood? Oh, we love the neighborhood. Oh, yeah, I grew up around the corner. So that might spark something.
Sure.
But when we're saying, okay, we're going to work now, which
Yeah.
means we're asking questions about the stuff. What's up? What's going on? How's it been working for you if I'm on a maintenance or an inspection? So I'm going to ask any subsequent questions about that. And then I'm going to ask, I usually want to then go into the age of the thing if it hasn't already come up.
Mm-hmm.
It may come up when they're telling you what's going on. So if it hasn't come up, I'm going to ask, do you know how old your whatever is? Oh, yeah, well, so James, tell me how old that water heater is? Oh, it's been here since we've lived here. We lived here 8 years. We've never had any trouble with it until now. Okay, all right. Well, water heaters generally last about 6 to 10 years. A couple factors on that: water quality, if you have any whole home filtration, anything like that, and getting regular maintenance, flushes, things like that. By the way, have you ever had any maintenance done on it? No, Well, I mean, what kind of maintenance do you do? What do you do? Well, we recommend you flush it every year. We want to check that anode rod in there probably every 2 to 3 years just to make sure that we still got enough of it that it's protecting the tank.
Mhm.
Have you ever had that done? No, I don't think so. Okay, do you have point of use or whole home filtration on your water system? What is that? Well, point of use might mean you have refrigerator filter, you might have a filter on your faucet in
Yeah,
the
RO
sink,
system.
or whole home would be you got something in the garage, with the salt and the canisters and all that kind of stuff. Oh no, we don't have any of that stuff. Just the refrigerator. Okay. Well, the around here, our water's pretty hard. And, in most places it is. And so what that does is it's going to cause premature failure of seals and rings. You probably get the white crusty stuff around your shower head, and maybe where you get the water out of your fridge when it dries up in that tray, you're going to see that. You probably see some of those things. Yeah, we noticed that. Well, what I'm doing there in that particular case is I'm setting context for how old the water heater is versus how long they last. 8 years, solidly in its end of its useful life, somewhere in there.
Right.
Okay, well, there might be 6 to 10 years, depending on water filtration, water quality, and maintenance. Okay, they said 8, they're in the middle, but now they don't have water filtration. They haven't had regular maintenance on it. So now that 8 years is compared to probably the 6 years.
Right.
And so now, not only did I set context for age and filtration and maintenance and why it's necessary and how it affects the age of the water heater, their situation now creates contrast from that. They're
Right.
able to create contrast from that at that point. So
Right.
now they know 8 years, 6 years. No, I've never had it flushed. I don't even know what an anode rod is. Okay. That's another strike. Any filtration? No, we don't have any filtration. Okay, another strike. And while they're not going, well, yep, I guess I'll have to replace it at that point.
Tell me some new pricing.
No,
in the back of their mind, they're thinking, "Oh crap, what if?"
all I'm doing is planting that seed. And the reason I'm not doing that to manipulate them. I'm doing that because it's the responsible thing for me to do. If I'm asking them for this information, I need to give them something back about it. Okay?
And you don't want the rug pulled from out from under them because you don't say this stuff, right?
Right. Well,
In your mind, you're thinking all this stuff,
yeah.
but they're just not staying in track with your mind because you're not sharing that context.
Right. If I don't share the information about how long they last, I don't set context. Well, some technicians push back. Oh, that's salesy. They know you're trying to sell them something. No, we're just saying it's a
Education.
possibility.
Well, I don't even say about replacement. It's just educating.
I'm not talking about replacement either. I'm just saying they're going to draw that conclusion naturally.
Right.
Okay. And if they don't, they don't. But I did what I was supposed to do, what I feel like is the right thing to do. Because here's what I know: if I don't set that now, when I set it 45 minutes from now, when I'm telling them what's wrong with the water heater and how it's better to replace it than repair that pilot assembly, or there's no anode rod and whatever else, it's scaled, it's better to replace it because you're not going to fix any of that stuff. When I'm telling them that, what I don't want is them to then have to process why.
Right.
Because I can come back, let's say I don't do any of that stuff, and let's say, more importantly, we teach to do the questions in that way. We teach to give the responses in that way. If you're the tech out there who asks the questions but doesn't feel comfortable giving the responses, here's what happens. Do you know how old your water heater is? Yeah, it's about 8 years old. Okay.
Have you ever maintained it?
Have you ever had any maintenance done on it? Like flushing it or changing the anode rod? No, we haven't touched it since we moved here. Okay. And what about water filtration? Is it point of use or whole home? I don't think any of that. Okay. Is there anything else you've noticed with the water heater? Does the water smell funny? Do you hear noises out of it? Anything like that? No. Okay. Well, guess what I did? I checked off the list that I asked the questions, but all I said was okay. So now they're wondering, why was he asking all these questions? They might probably give you the benefit of the doubt of, he's just doing this as part of the troubleshooting. Yeah.
Right.
But a lot of people are going to go to, well, why is he asking me all those questions? I didn't, whatever. So now they're not thinking about any of that stuff. They might be thinking about it now, but now they're more anxious because you ask and you didn't tell them what they meant. So I'm giving you my stats
Yeah.
And you're not telling them. It's just like going to the doctor. What's your current weight? 200 pounds. How tall are you? 5'9". Why do they want to know that? And they're like, okay. Um, have you had your blood pressure taken lately? Yeah, I did it at the grocery store in the little machine. 125/83. Okay. Is that good? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
what does all that mean? There's a reason the professional is asking those questions, but if they don't give you anything on it, you're kind of wondering what's up.
Sure.
And so if I do that there and I don't give the responses to set the context, then no contrast can happen.
Right.
Okay. And so then fast forward now 45 minutes, an hour later, when you're coming back to talk about your checklist. And I know the best thing for you to do is replace your water heater because it's so scaled up. There's no anode rod. You don't need to spend money on an anode rod, and we're not going to get all that scale out by flushing it.
Mm.
You're still going to have the same problem of it just not recovering fast enough. I know all these technical reasons. Well, now I'm going to come to you, James. You have a minute to talk? Yeah, we can go over. Okay, so remember, green is good. Yellow is an issue that causes a future problem. Red is broken, unsafe, causing property damage. Needs to be done and taken care of immediately. Yeah. Okay, well, due to the age and the fact it doesn't look like you've had maintenance on it and you don't have any water filtration on it, my recommendation is that you replace it. Now, you may not say those words, but it's going to sound like that.
Sure.
And what James is going, what? It's old? What?
There's
what
a
maintenance?
big jump we just made.
What? Right. I got to have water filtration for my water heater? So there's all these whats.
Yeah.
And the analogy that I was giving to you, we talked about it before, was, and this is a little rough, maybe it's a little extreme, but you know, everybody's watched movies where things have blown up before, right? And in a lot of those cases, there's people on the peripheral edge of that explosion. Well, inevitably, the way they portray that person's perspective of the explosion is they're still alive.
Yeah.
And
their ears are ringing.
And
they're kind of stumbling around.
Yeah, and what they hear people talk to them, it sounds like because they've just had this loud sound and shockwave hit them in the ears.
Right.
I almost said the earballs. But it hit them in the ears, and so they're disoriented. They aren't paying it. They can't make out what you're saying, and the first thing they're doing is seeking distance, survival. Let me get away from the danger.
Yeah.
And they might be asking, what the heck just happened?
Right.
And all that. But that's the reaction. That's the way it's shown, usually in movies and TV shows, right? From that first-person perspective of a person who was near the bomb blast.
Right.
Well, I feel that's the same kind of reaction you get from a customer if you don't do the things up front. And because if you're setting the context and they think, oh, 8 years, they last 6 to 10, 8 years. I don't have any water filtration. I've never had maintenance on it. Ooh, I hope I don't have to replace it. Fast forward now 45 minutes later, they've done that. Guess what they've done in the 45 minutes?
They've thought about it. They've digested it. They've tried to do some research.
They've probably gone online. They whipped their phone out. They played connections real quick. Then they looked up the water heater, replacement water heater. But guess what? They probably did that before they called you. And so what you're telling them jives with what they read.
Right.
Or what they found out. If they haven't done it before, they're doing it now. So when you fast forward 45 minutes, an hour later, when you tell them, you go to them and you say, well, James, remember we were talking about the age and the maintenance and the filtration. Well, because of the age of it and some of the issues that you have going on with it because of we haven't ever had it flushed and no anode rod and those kind of things. Yeah, it's really on its last leg, and the best thing for it is to be replaced. You know what a common response to that is?
Yeah, I figured.
Well, after you told me that, I figured,
it might be one of the options we needed to discuss.
I figured it might be on its last legs or something like that. You know what could happen, too, is you could be doing that on the front end. The water heaters can last anywhere from 6 to 10 years, depending on warranty, water quality, filtration, maintenance, all that kind of stuff. Well, yeah, we figured it was probably on its last legs. They probably tell you there.
Yeah.
And the answer is, well, yeah, let's just go ahead and replace. That's not the right answer. The answer is, okay, well, I'll be able to, we'll just check everything out and see where we're at. By the way, if you had any regular maintenance on it, flush, maybe an anode rod replace or anything like that, and you still do it,
Sure.
even though you got that answer. Yeah, we probably figured it was on its last legs.
Yeah.
So fast forward 45 minutes, an hour later, and now we have a situation where they're accepting that it might, not that they're going to,
Yes.
but they're accepting that it might
It's a
happen.
possibility of options. Right.
Yeah. Just like the athlete who, the football player who goes into a tackle and feels a twinge on the inside of their knee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at that moment in time, they know there's a possibility,
Right.
right? And because they've been playing a sport where that's known injuries, it's not out of the question.
Right.
Okay. And so that's just one of those things that if I give them context and they can form contrast, and then I come back and I present my findings to them and I further the contrast, then they are walking with me to that conclusion.
Right.
I am not dragging them kicking and screaming while they're trying to get away from the danger
Right.
and aren't really paying attention to what I said because they're wondering what the heck.
Right.
So that's why I say in 15 short minutes why you're presenting your findings there because you were setting the context so that the contrast is evident.
Sure.
And has more meaning at that point in time.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to have that conversation. And I want to point out when you ask somebody questions and you're getting answers, it turns into an interrogation or at best an interview if you're not giving anything back other than a nod of the head or an okay. It can turn into an interrogation if you're just hammering them with question, and you're never giving anything back. Instead, make it a conversation. You ask a question, they give you an answer, you make a statement back. That statement leads into the next question.
Yeah.
And then that's what it is. It's a conversation. So I know you have, obviously, when you're presenting your findings, there's things that you want to make sure that we talk about. So let's talk about that now. So now that we've set the stage,
yes,
and we set the situation where context has been established and contrast now exists at some level, now it's our turn to create even more contrast by giving them the facts, not speculation.
Not speculation. And I think one of the things that we often find is when you come back from your 30 to 45-minute diagnosis, you often lean into the money too quick. And what you don't have is meaning. And what we have to understand is people will only say yes to money when the meaning is greater. And so we need to have a conversation about meaning, what we found, what it means to them. And I found there's kind of 7 core things that you need to do when you present your findings. So 1, do not come back and present your findings using an option sheet that has your money at the bottom of it.
Yeah,
Because
money
if you
has
say-
no place at this point.
You're like, hey, it's time for us to replace. What are we talking
Education
about?
is what's up now.
$3,800 for the water heater. And then now you're trying to talk about why a water heater makes sense with a dollar amount looming. So
Well, now you're trying to justify a dollar amount.
they're trying this. So what we're saying is I personally train, you get your findings together. I'm even okay if you get your options together. I prefer to have my findings conversation separated by 5 to 10 minutes that allows them to digest the fact that we might be talking about a water heater, a new water heater, or whatever else. And I have that 5 to 10 minutes in the truck to pull these options together. Then I come back and they already know I'm going to be talking about a tankless water heater with a PRV and a water filtration system. Why? Because we talked about it 10 minutes ago and they've had that time to digest. Okay. So
I think you got to balance that though, because it could also be like you've created a cliffhanger. Now they got to wait next week or until it comes out again to see what happened.
So the thought process.
So that can increase anxiety.
Well, what I would say is here's a couple. So here's the 7 things. I want to hear what your thoughts on this. I say 7 things. 1, and these in my idea.
That's a lot of things.
Increase. Yeah,
7 things is a lot
7
of
things.
things.
These all increase in importance as you go. So you come back to present findings. 1, we call it reentry. You need to make sure that you got the time, you've got the people, and you've got the focus, right? So time. Hey, do you have 5 to 7 minutes for me to discuss what's going on? Focus. Pull them to the area, if at all humanly possible, to see, taste, touch, smell, hear. And
if not, have the physical evidence
or at least
to pull
have
them
the
to
physical
that.
evidence with you, right? And then third, make sure enough people are involved. Hey, if you got 5 to 7 minutes, I'd love to show you guys what's going on with the water heater. Do you feel like Susan wants to be involved in this conversation, right? So that's really helpful, those first 3 things. Number 2 is you always start with the reason for the call. even if you've got 150 psi,
Yes.
you start with the fact that the thermostat failed on the water heater. You start with the fact that there was a clogged toilet, right?
Yeah.
Because people want to know that your primary goal is to fix the reason they called you out for. Number 3, if there is good news, bring it up.
Share it.
Don't just say, hey, this sucks and that's terrible and this is horrible. Say, hey, it is 16 years old. The great news is we actually got a long life out of the system, far beyond what most people get. You've been
Yep.
playing with house money. Or
Yeah.
even, hey, it did rupture and it's only 6 years old, but at least we didn't get water on the floor.
Yeah.
The good news is there was no damage done. Just look for the silver lining in the cloud and share that with them, because a spoonful of sugar helps that medicine go down.
Name that movie, Alex.
He goes,
He just duh.
Mary Poppins is Mary Poppins. Okay. So 4 is whatever you do. These are the most important. Connect the findings to each other. If there's one phrase you want to get rid of, lose the phrase, and I also found.
Yes.
If you say, I found that your flapper, and I also found that your water pressure, and I also found the corrosion, and I also found, in their mind, they're like, stop finding things.
Yes.
What you need to use is words cause, led to, because of, due to. So whenever
Well, you need to. It needs to be a chain of events.
Yes.
And you don't need to stretch it together. You need to, but it does need to be, because in my mind, what links everything together? Time and dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of maintenance. Time, dirt, lack of maintenance every time.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's the thing: if you go back to the questions,
Yeah.
age, time.
Yeah.
Lack of maintenance. Lack of maintenance.
Yeah.
Filtration, dirt.
Dirt. Yeah. And so I'm not saying that, well, your garbage disposal is because your water pressure. What I am saying is, if there's an ability to connect causality, hey, Mrs. Jones, you called us out because we had a failed capacitor. Typically, capacitors this age, this young, fail for a reason. Most often that's because of lack of airflow. So we check the airflow. Sure enough, look how dirty this is. Anytime it's this dirty, it's going to cause your compressor to start overramping. That's why we checked.
Mm-hmm.
Now, instead of 6 different issues, I've got one issue with 6 symptoms that are all interconnected, right? So 5 is you tie back at this point to earlier conversations, and this is where we start to attach meaning to the math. Just because I have a high water pressure, what does that mean? Well, you just told me a couple of minutes ago that you're about to spend $50,000 on a whole new kitchen system. Does it concern you that you might be having all these brand new faucets and fixtures under 105 psi? Hey, you said your mother-in-law is going to be moving in a couple of months from now. This is why we're having those issues. So tying back to that historical, which allows us to number 6, tie forward. At this point, I tell them what options I'm going to put together. Ask them what they think about those options. What do they feel like is important, right? I'm going to ask them these questions of education, which is number 7. Did you notice this? Does that concern you? How important is it? Hey, do you notice that it sounds like there's a hammering in the wall? Why that concerns me is because it's putting this water pressure on the systems. Is it important to you that as you move forward, that's something that we deal with, right? So I will tell them.
You're also you've got to be explaining consequences
for sure
of an action.
What stands to lose, right? And so how that tie forward looks is, listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go pull together some options. I'm going to give you a basic Band-Aid option just to change out this faucet. I'm also going to give you an option with that faucet, but also changing out the angle stops and the supply lines. Then I'm going to give you an option to address that water pressure as well. I'm going to do whatever I can. We can sometimes save by bundling all those things together, and I'm going to get those prices as tight as possible. We'll come back and talk you through all those options when we get back. And I'll say, do you have any questions about why we're talking those options? Do you like these? I want to have every single thing that is going to show up on my option sheet answered except the price. All the questions. Do I need to do this now? Could I get a few more years out of it? Do you feel like it's a good investment? Have all those conversations. And the only thing that they might be surprised by is the dollar amount that we come back with.
Yeah, and there's a practicality to that gap between presenting findings and options sometimes too, where some systems out there, whether you're doing paper, whether you're doing this software or that software, some systems out there won't let you show options without pricing.
Yeah.
Or you have to tie your finding to a recommendation that shows pricing.
Well, and that's why a checklist is really helpful, because I don't want to use an option diagram.
Yeah.
Let me show you my checklist. This is this. This is that. So I'm just using that as my media to show them. And then if they need to, well, what are my options? I can flip to the options right there if I want to and start looking at the options. And that's presenting of the options, right? The prescriptions. But I think that it's just important that you have this full conversation of meaning before you start talking money.
Yeah.
And if they say, no, man, so you're talking about how much are we talking? At that point, you can push back off a little bit and you say, well, you know what? I don't want to misquote you. I'm going to get down to the penny exactly what it would be, but I also want to save you money. Let me step out to the truck, pull these together, and come catch up with you in about 5 minutes. Is that fair? 99% of the time, people are like, yeah, that's cool. If you wanted to, and this is what you do, you could also price condition there if you wanted to. If you knew it was going to blow their socks off and it's part of your process as a company, there's a chance for you to do a price
Yeah, you
conditioning.
could. And I think also there might be a situation where you do back off, give them the 5 minutes, they call the spouse,
Yeah.
right?
Historically, hopefully on that reentry, you try to get that spouse involved.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But if you already know they're not there,
Yes.
that could be a preemptive handle of talk to my spouse.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I called my wife and
Yeah.
we agree. We just want to go ahead and replace it.
Yeah.
We don't want to put any more money into it.
So where I hear people sometimes, and I'm okay if you don't necessarily give them 5 minutes in the truck, whatever, I am saying you need to have a separation between a meaning conversation and a money conversation. But sometimes people are like, well, 5 to 10 minutes, what if they get online and start looking up stuff? Or what if they're going to do that anyway.
They've probably already done it.
They're going to do that anyway. I want to be there with them while they do that, right?
Mhm.
So I don't want that to happen once I leave.
Right.
I want to be part of that process. So yeah, that's the thought there.
Awesome. I like how you lean forward when you're making a point.
Yeah, and then I lean
And
back
you
when
think
you're
it's
talking.
when I talk, you lean back and it's like, well, ho hum.
Yeah, pretty much.
But no, that was good.
I'm just showing
That was
how the
gold.
audience feels.
That was
Gold, Jerry. Gold.
That was gold. It's the summer of Chris. Name the show.
Name the show.
Alex. Most people do, but no.
Everybody hates Chris.
No.
I love it.
Man, Alex.
That's the name of the show. That's the name of this podcast.
Alex is missing like classics. That was Seinfeld, Alex.
I mean, to be fair, he's what, 32? 35.
35. He looks like 27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 54. You look like 58.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I think I think too many times as a technician, you go into a home and you compartmentalize. And you look at a process like press play, and you're like, I'm going to do the R, and the R doesn't have an effect on anything else, but everything builds on what's after it.
Sure.
And especially when you're educating a customer, think about it. If you don't do anything to educate the customer as you go, you don't want them watching you work. You don't ask them any questions up front and give them statements and educate on those their answers and all those kind of things. If you don't, then you pull the pin on that grenade, drop it in their lap.
Man, you deserve the consequences you're getting.
And then
wonder why they don't say
why they don't say yes. And then you realize that you only have 10, 15 minutes then to educate them on everything and persuade them.
And have them digest.
Yes, and have them process it. So let's do it in the beginning. Because what does help us, though, these days is that most people are doing some research before they call, so that helps. When we get there, we know they've done that. We reset their expectations, or we set new expectations that they didn't have before. Oh, really? They only last that long? Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. They don't make stuff like they used to.
They don't make stuff like they used to. Or, oh, really? I'm supposed to have it looked at every year? Yeah. They don't make stuff like they used to, so you got to get looked at more. So whatever that is, you're educating them so that when you get to the end, they're not processing the bomb blast. They're able to process. They already knew that happened. Now they're processing the aftermath and what they do to cope with it.
Right.
And so think about it that way, because that's really what happens when you're an expert and you go into a layman's whatever it is, and you're dropping factual knowledge on them, whatever it is, it's fact that you've discovered through your mysterious skill set. There's going to be naturally some suspicion with that because we trust what we understand.
Right.
And so what we need to do is make sure that we're planting that seed up front, because presenting your findings, there's a lot of things you do when you're actually doing it, of course. But if you do not prep, if you don't prep that customer for certain things, when you get to the end, it's just going to it's going to cost you too much.
What are you saying, Chris? Are you saying that if you don't press, you can't play?
Yes, Captain Kirk. Name the show, Alex.
Oh.
Did he just say he did
has
not know
no
Captain
idea.
Kirk? He has no idea?
He's a joke. He's a joke.
Alex, get a life.
Yes.
Okay, good. Wait, Alex, are you the guy that has the Star Trek phasers? Oh, okay, so that
He
is the
knows.
joke, yeah. Like, no, I'm not kidding. Alex has phasers from Star Trek. Like actual phasers. And just they're set to stun, just so you know. So if
Right,
you
the
ever
set
see
the
them,
phasers
there's
to
no
stun. Yeah.
danger. from it.
Disintegrate.
All right. Ooh, that was kind of a way to go out.
Let's do it.
You stun your customer.
Oh. No.
No, okay. All right. Do us a favor. Hey, kids. Uncle Chris here. We need your help. I need you to go wherever you get this podcast. I need you to like it. I need you to share it. And I need you to leave a good review. That helps us out. Thank you.
Could you do that for old Uncle Chris?
Could you do that for old Uncle Chris? Alex doesn't understand that reference either. All right. If you want to know more, www.serveextra.com. Blogs, podcasts, do what I told you to do just a minute ago. If you want to talk to me, Elmore at serveextra.com, 254-733-7109. If you want to talk to James Walker.
James at serveextra.com, 254-230-5266.
Phasers on stun.
Phasers on stun.
Flat top truck. James, what do we do here at Service Excellence other than make excellent podcasts?
Chris, at Service Excellence, we turn learning into earning.
Thank you, J-Dub. Bye, everybody.